mentioned, I'm making the rounds because Tuesday is a really important day. And the most important thing for all of us, as he just said, is to get out and exercise our right and our responsibility to vote, because the only way to affect change is to get involved. And it's too easy to sit back and think my vote doesn't matter, and it's the only thing that matters. But I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But as he also mentioned, I'm a big supporter of Hillary's.
Right.
And while whoever you're supporting, the most important thing is to get out there and participate. I thought I'd take a minute to talk about why I'm supporting Secretary Clinton, and why I have felt so moved to go out and talk about her and try and bring people on board with her campaign. I never kind of want to be strident in the way that I support somebody, so I'm just going to tell you how I got there. When I think about who should be our next president, what I'm really asking myself is, what kind of a country do I want my two daughters, who are 21 and 26, to raise their families in? And that's a particularly important question right now, because I feel that we're at a real crossroads in our political conversation and in the political history of our country, because what I see is, on one side of the political spectrum, politics driven by fear and xenophobia and division, and in many cases bigotry. And on the other side, it's politics, I believe, driven by unity and equality, and what I have always taken to be our core American values. I think that being a Democrat, I feel that we have a tremendous amount to be proud of in what President Obama has been able to achieve in the past 8 years. Especially in the face of unrelenting, vicious opposition at every turn, from the second he took the oath of office. And I think history will bear him out as a truly great president. Less than 5% unemployment is lower than it's been since he took office. We're coming out of this recession finally stronger than any other country on earth. We've made historic strides in LGBT rights. We've now joined what will hopefully be a meaningful international climate agreement. And thanks to Obamacare, 90% of Americans now have health care. But there are severe challenges that we still face. The income gap in this country is tragic, and it is wider than it's been since the 1920s. We have a criminal justice system that is in need of systemic reform. And, as a lot of you well know, even after 2 terms of a black president, a person of color in this country can still look forward to unfair treatment from law enforcement. We have an epidemic of gun violence in this country that, for some reason, Congress and our leaders have been unable to make any progress on. And with the rise of ISIS and the spread of global jihad, we're looking at the biggest terrorism threat that we face since the rise of Al-Qaeda some years ago. So these are very complex and very real problems. So the question then becomes, what is the right approach? How do we solve these problems? How are we going to attack this and really get something done for the American people? And for me, the answer gets right to the core of who we are, what it means to be an American, who we are as a people. Is it American to build walls on our southern border, to wall ourselves off from the rest of the world, to declare, as Trump has, to forcibly deport 11 million illegal immigrants, to sow division between people? I don't need to go on and on about the things that have come out of Mr. Trump's mouth, but with every one, it just gets worse and scary and more disturbing to me. Not least of all because it's so completely incoherent when you're actually trying to say, well, what is his plan? What is he going to do? and I think we're at a real scary moment. And frankly, a country that's driven by fear in this way is not the America I grew up in. And it is not the America that I want my grandkids to grow up in. When I listen to Hillary Clinton's vision of America, that is a place I recognize and a place I'm proud to call my country. And that America, which is about taking walls down and bringing people together and creating unity and healing, the divides between us, and finding a way to move forward together, and to embrace our brothers and sisters around the world, that to me is something I can believe in. So, I know we have two Democratic candidates, and in many ways, Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton share many of the same goals. They have different ways of getting there. And while, it's a very heated campaign, and toward the last month or so, things have gotten very intense, I think it's always really important now to step back and take a breath and go, let's just look at the facts. And so, just to highlight a couple of the things that Secretary Clinton is talking about, in terms of approaching the education issue in this country and the problem of that college is completely unaffordable, and education really is at the core of raising all of our children up. Whether it be early childhood education, which she's going to double down on, or whether it's making it possible for our teenagers to go to college without being burdened by debt for the rest of their lives. Her college compact will allow, if you go to her website, you can look at the issues and read about it more, but the college compact, she has a system that she's declared exactly how it will be paid for and how much it will cost, so that you can go to a state public college without debt for tuition, books, or fees. And, if you do have to take out loans, they will be low interest loans, and you can pay them off with your life, never paying more than 10% of your yearly income to pay off your student loans. If you are someone who has a student loan, as I'm sure many of you still do, that you've been carrying in some cases for decades, Secretary Clinton's plan will allow you to refinance that loan at current low interest rates. And as you know, if you have one, student loans are not refinanceable. Some people are paying 15, 20% on these loans, and it's crippling. So you'll be able to refinance those loans. And when I look at a program like that, I say, oh, I see how that is going to happen. I see how that is going to make a real difference in my friends and my neighbors' lives. Secretary Clinton understands that our criminal justice system, as I mentioned before, is completely out of bounds. And she intends to take a whole new approach to the whole concept of prison and punishment by ending mass incarceration, first of all, building what President Obama has started, to again reorient the whole way we police in this country, to bring police and communities back together through common sense things like making body cameras on police standard equipment nationwide, to make community policing the norm, so that our police officers who need so much more training on the way that they relate to people in the communities, but most of all to know their communities and know the people, so we can eradicate racial profiling, which is another huge priority of Hillary's. And so the tragedies like the deaths of Michael Brown and Walter Scott and Timber Rice and Eric Garner and so many others can permanently become a thing of the past. To just touch on a couple of others, when I talk about her foreign policy, she knows that we're not in a war between civilizations, in the war against terror, as Donald Trump and ISIS would like us to believe. We are in a war between civilization and barbarism. And we have to embrace our Muslim brothers and sisters, both in America and around the world, to solve this terrible problem that we face together, without vilifying the entire world's religion. So, and frankly, the other thing that is so important that I haven't mentioned is, almost 96 years ago, women won the right to vote. A woman who works full-time still does not make as much as her male counterpart. Secretary Clinton intends to make equality pay the norm in America. That's going to happen. And, you know, so these are some of the issues. But before I leave you, I want to tell you really why, what it is about Hillary that got me so committed to her. And it was when I started to really do my homework about this woman. Frankly, because I was a little concerned when I was asked to come out and talk about her with the kind of the narrative that has been put out in the media about her over the past 25 years. You know, that about this trustworthiness. I thought, what's at the bottom of that? So I went and I really did as much homework as I possibly could to understand what this woman is about. And here's what I came away with every time, and the more I read it. This is a person who, contrary to all of this narrative that really the conservative, you know, opposition has mounted by her, this is a woman who has been completely consistent in what she has been fighting for and the people she has been fighting for since she was in college. And that is children and women and American families who lack the resources to fight for themselves. This is a woman who, when she got out of Yale Law School at the top of her class, had opportunities to go work at high-paying New York law firms, and she chose to go to work for the Children's Defense Fund. And Marion Wright Edelman, you know, for no money, fighting for children and to children's health care, to make sure that poor children who lack resources could have a chance in the world. This is a woman who, in her first assignment for Marion Wright Edelman, went down to Alabama by herself to investigate these so-called private academies that were segregated schools, that were whites-only schools, and they weren't admitted to it, and they were in violation of the law. And she went down there posing as a young mother moving to the community, and got the people to say, well, no, we only allow white students, so you don't have to worry about that, we won't be. And she, you know, filed a report and exposed this, this practice. And this woman is, as one historian put it, a scholar activist, and I think that's a wonderful term, way to describe her. Because she studies the problem, she learns everything about it, and she develops a plan of action that she follows through to the long term. You may agree with her or not agree with her, she may make a mistake, but it's always coming from the place fighting for the most vulnerable of our citizens. And you know, you follow her to Arkansas when she was, you know, Attorney General. Her husband was Attorney General, and then she was the First Lady of Arkansas. She did go into private practice, and still the call to service was answered. She co-founded the Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families to fight on the very same issues I mentioned before. President Carter appointed her to the Legal Services Corporation, which is a national organization that provides legal service, just what it sounds like, you know, legal representation for people that are too poor to afford it. She fought for health care for rural Arkansas families. When she got to the White House, we all know that before there was Obamacare, there was Hillary Care, and she fought really hard to get universal health care passed, and she was roundly defeated. And you know, those of us who remember, it was very ugly, and she was shut down by the Republican opposition and their special interest allies. But she didn't quit. Her next move, when being humiliated on that effort, was to reach across the aisle, join hands with Orrin Hatch, who was a conservative Republican, and Teddy Kennedy, who was a liberal Democrat, and together they passed the State Children's Health Insurance Fund, CHIP, the Health Insurance Program, that's still in existence today, and has provided health care for, I think, 8 million children. And we're protecting the most vulnerable of the citizens she was trying to cover with Hillary Care. In terms of women's rights, she, you know, as First Lady, went to China, to the World Conference on Women, and got up in the face of the Chinese leadership and declared that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. No one had said that, and she has followed that and fought for that. She, you know, pushed the NIH to you know, increase funding for childhood asthma. She made children's immunization against childhood diseases the norm around the country. The list goes on and on and on. Through her Senate career, where she has fought for very same things. You know, and I just think that this is, as I said, this woman is a scholar activist, and she is a fighter. And whether you like her or not, this is a woman who, when she gets knocked down, she gets right back up and keeps fighting. Yeah. And she is going to fight for us. Right. And she is going to work to heal the divides in this country instead of make them wider. And it is going to be a very ugly campaign, as you can see from what's already happening. And if, you know, whoever you're voting for, if you're a Democrat, wherever you end up on Tuesday, whoever gets the nomination, we're going to have to unify as a party and come together as a community. Right. Because we do have an opportunity. You know, the right wing in this country has mounted about a 50-year effort that has been incredibly organized and incredibly well funded to undo the work that FDR started with the New Deal, what, you know, President Johnson achieved with the Civil Rights Act, with the Voting Rights Act, with the new, you know, the Great Society. And the neocon movement in this country has been working really hard to shut that down and unravel it. You know, he'll repair the Voting Rights Act and make it possible for everyone to be automatically registered to vote when they turn 18, unless they want to opt out. But, you know, we have an opportunity, if we elect a Democratic president, in my view, to set the course for the 21st century so that those progressive programs that lift people up instead of putting people down become the norm for the 21st century. There will be probably 3 Supreme Court justices in the next, you know, the coming years who will determine that. And I don't think we can afford to have Donald Trump making those choices. So, we've got to come together, people. And I thank you for letting me talk. And if it is Hillary who gets the nomination, we need to fight as hard for her as we know she's going to fight for us when she takes her seat in the Oval Office, the one that I pretend to sit behind. So thank you all so much for
thank the pastoral team and the deacons and the trustees and this church for making sure that we continue to be activists. And again, as we all say, let's get out there and vote, because there are people that have fought for us, given their lives.